Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Crystal Thomas, and I'm the Program Manager for the State Office of Policy Planning and Innovation here at DDS, and I'll be your host today. Just wanted to welcome everyone and thank you for participating in today's webinar titled Coping with COVID. I would like to introduce our facilitators, Dr. Karen Harvey and Tanya Richmond, both who are nationally recognized trauma-informed therapists and person-centered experts. But before we kick off our webinar, just wanted to let everyone know that this webinar is recorded and will be posted to our site. So, anything that you post will be public. If you wish to share anything anonymous or private, feel free to text me at 202-375-4220. As well as people who've dialed in, feel free to text me if you have a question, and that is 202-375-4220. And without further ado, I will turn this over to Karen Harvey to kick off our training.
Thank you so much, Crystal. And I really want to thank DCDD people. I mean, you guys have just gone out of your way to try to get resources to folks and reaching out to us and doing everything you can. And I appreciate that so much. So I just want to thank you. I know Tanya feels the same way. This is such a tough time. And it's just no joke. It's no joke, and we have to stick together to get through it. And I think earlier Crystal was saying there's no blueprint for this. That's so true, isn't there? There's no blueprint. Really, none of us have an idea what's going to be happening and how things are going to shake out. But we all know that this is different than anything we've ever seen before. So a big piece of it is for us to stick together, to keep talking, to stay connected on every level, and then, to support you. So first of all, what we'd like to say from the bottom of our hearts, if I can move my slide, there we go, is a big thank you. Thank you so much. In particular, thank you to all of you out there who are DSPs. Thank you so much for the most important, indispensable workforce there is. And even though you might not be getting a standing ovation when you walk outside of your home and go to work every day, here, I'm going to stand up for a minute. Then you can't say, yay! I'm giving you a standing ovation. Bravo! We're giving you a standing ovation because you are the heroes. Without you, what would we do? How would we provide services? How would anything be functioning right now? And because of your commitment to the people you support, we can keep going. Without you, what would happen? So I think I'm not alone in expressing my heartfelt, deepest appreciation, first and foremost to the DSPs here, all the direct support professionals, all the frontline workers. And then thank you to the managers, to the administrators, to the supervisors, to the nurses. Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you to everybody supporting those who are there on the front line, because the supporters of the supporters are just as important. So, give yourself a pat on the back. You are amazing. More than a pat on the back. Give yourself a standing ovation. I don't even know how to express the depth of my gratitude. Thank you so much. Next, let's talk about this demon. There it is. COVID. COVID is a demon, and it is creating trauma on a number of levels. And there's trauma, there's some opportunity, there's growth, there's change, there's loss, there's difficulty. It's another universe. We have been catapulted into another universe, right? We're in this alternate universe, and we're here trying to figure out which way is up because it all went upside down, didn't it? So today, what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about the traumas of COVID. I'm going to talk about the big trauma, which we're all clear about, but the little traumas. So there's a psychologist, Francine Shapiro. She passed away last year, and she talked about trauma being big. When we know that somebody has been through something horrible, you get their major traumas, right? You know that they've been through so much. But then the little traumas, the destabilizing factors, the things that throw us off base, the little hurts, the confusion, the losses, they affect you too. And what she says is that both the big trauma and the little trauma can create post-traumatic stress disorder. So we may even be going through post-traumatic stress disorder and not realize it. You know, like vets who come back from Afghanistan, that's clear. Okay, this is PTSD, or Iraq. But the smaller traumas impact us, and we may have different degrees of PTSD without realizing it. So we're going to talk about that today. But I'm going to talk first about the larger trauma. And I want to take a moment because I just heard and just found out 6.5% of the folks with intellectual disabilities that you support have passed away in the DC area. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is terrible. And I'm so sorry. And that's higher than most. But then you've also lost staff. You've lost some wonderful people that I've heard about. Beautiful, dedicated people. And then many of you have also lost relatives or friends. So I want to take a minute for us to just remember those people and have a moment of honoring their lives. You take a minute, think of all those you lost, and let's honor them and their beautiful life on this planet. Thank you. They will not be forgotten. They will not be forgotten. And then what I want to talk about is grief, because we don't always realize that grief is very real, and grief is trauma. Grief is a very real, it's a big T trauma, isn't it? Grief is a impactful experience, and you can't just brush it away. And you may be grieving someone that you weren't that close to, but the fact that they touched your life at all creates an experience of grief. And what's sad is that we humans have these ways of these rituals and ways of memorializing people, and we can't even do that. We can't even right now have the funerals, have the memorials, have the honoring of those that we've lost in the way that we're used to. So I want to encourage people to do several things. First of all, I want to encourage you, even if the family has chosen not to do a Zoom memorial or some kind of memorial, I want to encourage you, among those, that circle of friends that you have who have all lost somebody, to do a memorial amongst yourselves, to set up something however you can, because it really helps you. It's an important way of processing grief, to come together. There's power in that circle. So I know several people where the family did not want to have the memorial, and yet they met amongst themselves and memorialized their coworkers who died. There were several people who did that. They memorialized individuals that they lost, and they had that circle. So if you can do that, that will help a lot. That's number one. And number two is for your sake to have some kind of remembrance just yourself. Like some people have found it nice if they have a picture, to get that picture printed and put it in a frame, decorate the frame, or write a poem or color something to somehow for yourself memorialize that person. And that processing, research shows, is very helpful in dealing with the grief. And grief is something that doesn't just, okay, now you've resolved it and it goes away, or now you've accepted this loss and it goes away, right? It comes back at the times that you least expect it. And it comes in a wave you didn't see coming, right? So give yourself a break. Give yourself a minute. If you're going about your day and you get hit by one of those waves, take some time for you, because it happens and it will happen. So you have to do that self-care. And Tanya's going to teach us a bunch of techniques that will really help us in the processing of this as well. So, when you have that minute, when you have that overwhelmed feeling, where you can use some of these techniques to get through it. So I really hope that you practice with her and take this, because they're very, very helpful. So for this loss that we're going through, please, take care of yourself and do what you need to do to get through this, to honor the person you lost, and to give yourself the space and the time you need for your healing. Okay, so now let's talk about how it's affecting us, right? So we have that grief, that big T trauma, but we have the little T traumas as well. And here's what happens. We have a part of our brain, I'm going to move this over here, the amygdala, right? Which is flashing, it's our danger signals. And it will flash in our brain when we feel we're in danger, right? Many of us watch the news and our amygdala starts flashing. The news. Oh my goodness. And when that amygdala tells us we're in danger, we have a response that's physical. So first thing is that we don't think rationally. Our smart brain goes offline. Our smart brain stops really functioning, and we have our, fight, flight, or freeze response bubbling up inside of us. How many of you get a feeling of frustration from time to time? Do you feel like it's all pent up? I know I've been feeling that sometimes. Well, the amygdala will fill us up with chemicals, adrenaline and cortisol, because back when we were in the jungle and we saw a lion, we had to run away from that lion, or maybe attack that lion and save our own life. But now, here we are in our modern day world, and we're still getting that response to try and protect ourselves, but we can't protect ourselves in the way we used to. And so we have to release it somehow. We all have our own modes. Some people fight. Some people right now are arguing with everybody in the world. There's some people that the snark is flying, right? But that could also be a fight response. This is possibly a trauma response. Sadly, domestic violence is up. Then there are people that are just shut down, who are just kind of stuck and not being able to do things. I think most of us are feeling a real difficulty getting a lot done, right? I was like, I've got all this time. I'm going to get all this stuff done. It's like moving through molasses, because part of us is stuck and we're in a different time zone and it's not real. And our amygdala is telling us we're not safe. So we're half frozen and we're half trying to flee and we want to fight and we can't move forward. So we have that flight, fight, or freeze response going on inside of us without us even realizing it when we see the danger. We also have, according to Janina Fisher, a psychologist, attachment issues. Sometimes people get really needy. You know, a lot of the folks that we support can get very, very needy right now. I need you, I need you, I need you every single minute. I need to talk to you, I need you, I need you. Or filled with shame. It's my fault. I'm sorry. It's my fault. People who have had a lot of trauma often have a sense of shame that's not warranted, that's not true, but a lot of us feel like, well, this bad thing happened because I'm a bad person, or I'm being punished, or I did something wrong. And none of that is true. None of that is rational. That's actually a symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a symptom of the trauma you're experiencing, that sense of shame. So these are all normal trauma responses to what's going on. We might feel agitated. We might feel stuck. We might want to get out. We might take more risks than we should be taking because we just feel like we have to go. This is normal. This is normal. Also, okay, the PTSD, you may say, well, I don't have post-traumatic stress disorder. But here's what it is. We might not be having flashbacks. We might not be having severe responses. But I believe that post-traumatic stress disorder is actually, there's a continuum or a range. It's on a spectrum. So you can have little bits of it and not even be realizing it. So
I think Karen may have lost a connection, and I know she'll be joining us in just a moment, so please just bear with us.
hello there. Are we still here? I'm so sorry.
We hear you. Yay.
Oh, good. I think my face is frozen. I had a little glitch there. Well, as Tanya was saying earlier, it is definitely one of those days. Oh, you don't really see me, but that's okay. All right. Maybe I can try and, I guess my face is frozen in a really weird looking position, but that's just life. Okay. I'm going to go on with the PowerPoint. I'm so sorry, you all. All right. So symptoms of PTSD. I think I'm going to try and get my face back, if you don't mind. So I'm going to take 1 minute. I apologize.
You're
and
good.
I'm going to
It's
try
gonna be
and,
fine.
yeah, thank you. You are a true friend. I'm telling you, these are your friends in life. People that tell you it's going to be fine, even if
It
it's
is
not.
gonna be fine. We got all our buddies here with us. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, you probably still can't see my face, huh?
No,
I'm gonna
I
try
can't.
meeting again. Okay. Sorry about this. It's always something. Can you see me now? No. Okay.
Oh, I think you're coming back.
Hi there. Now you have an echo. Okay, forget that. All right, so you're not going to see me, but I'm just going to keep going. And I apologize. I will be back with you in a minute. You're just going to hear me. Okay, sorry guys. Who knows what that was? So, re-experiencing. These are the symptoms of PTSD. And you might be experiencing this without realizing it. You might end up re-experiencing bad things that happened in the past. They may be coming up for you. I was in the grocery store and I was talking to this young woman with Down syndrome and her mother. from 6 feet apart with our masks on. And she said to me, I said, wow, looks like you're helping your mom. She was pushing the cart. And the first thing she said to me was, my father died, which was so sad. That was the first thing she had to say to me, because this trauma of COVID triggered that trauma. And then her mother looked at me and shook her head and said, he died 20 years ago. And so with that 20 years ago, she was re-experiencing it. Can you see me now? No? Okay, never mind. Can you hear me?
Yes, Karen, I hear and see you. You're looking good.
I did it! Sorry about that. I don't know what my computer did. It's always something. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, this young woman first said, oh, my father died. And then the next thing was she said, and I lost my job. So she had just lost her job at Michael's. So her most severe trauma, so we say worst, first, and most recent. So her worst trauma, losing her dad, which may have been the most severe, and then most recent, she lost her job. And she just started talking in a loop. And her mom was just shaking her head because her mom hears that loop all day, right? As many of you working with your folks are hearing the loops, and we have our own loops in our head, because this is a symptom of PTSD. We are re-experiencing over and over these things going on. Next symptom, hypervigilance. So we may see ourselves doing things over and over again, cleaning or straightening things or trying to get everything straightened out or trying to put things. That's a symptom of trauma when it becomes almost obsessive, because we're trying to control the part of our life we can control because we can't control these other things. Or maybe we're, again, stuck. We said earlier, it's so hard to move. We're all moving through molasses in this different time zone. Maybe we're frozen in front of the TV and can't get moving. Or maybe we're just not even present. Maybe we're dissociating and everything feels very unreal and we're not really present or engaging. These are small, tiny symptoms of PTSD that we may all be going through. Another symptom is negative alteration in cognition and mood, which is basically a sense of impending doom. So many people are feeling like, I will always feel this way. It will always be this way. Not having hope. Tragically, there are an increase in suicides right now. There's somebody that I see who just lost a dear friend of hers. Her friend was struggling with mental illness and for many years battling suicidal thoughts, feelings, and she killed herself on Monday so tragically. And my friend said she knew it was COVID, that she just lost hope, and that was such a trigger. So, we have to take care of each other, but also know that this is a time when there are people that are really just plummeting downward with that sense of doom. And if you feel your head going that way, thinking over and over again, oh, am I muted? No. If we feel that way, okay, at least I'm not muted. But if we feel that sense of hopelessness, it's time to talk to someone. It's time to get help. It's time to reach out, because that hopelessness can lead us down that rabbit hole. And it's really important to not feel alone and get perspective, because sometimes our minds are our own worst enemy. And we can convince ourselves that things are really, really bad. Lots of people are losing jobs and can have themselves convinced that nothing is ever going to be okay, but it is going to change. We are going to get through this. So reach out. And then finally, hyperarousal. How many of you have kids at home who are in a hyped up state, right? In an agitated state? That's a symptom of trauma. So one single mom I know who has 3 boys set up an obstacle course in her backyard just to get the kids to get it out of their body, because their amygdalas are flashing. They know things are really wrong, but they can't really put together what. So those kids are running now every day. She has a different course every day for them and competitions and very creative way to get that out. You know, I have somebody I'm working with now therapeutically who keeps breaking his stuff. He gets very, very agitated. He says, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it and I'm going to die. And then he breaks stuff. This is a symptom of trauma. So next slide, hopefully. So the little t traumas are, according to Bessel van der Kolk, a pre-trauma condition. So he did a webinar right when the shutdown began, and he went over how the things going on with COVID are actually really pre-trauma conditions, or what Francine Shapiro would call the little t traumas. And that we have to really take extra care of ourselves through this, because this is a time when we're more vulnerable, right? We're not feeling safe. We're not stable. So what I'm going to do now, thank goodness you can see me, you can hear me, all is well. and I'm going to go over what those pre-trauma conditions are, and then what we can do to address them, the antidotes, right? So while we're going through this, how we can be coping. So number one, not being able to predict what is going to happen. That is a tough one, right? That is a really tough one, because every day you don't know. So at some point I was giving this talk and I was saying, oh, we're in the new normal. But it's not, we can't even get used to the new normal, because even the normal is changing day to day, right? And every day is a different set of variables. You don't know. You don't know what your agency is going to ask you to do today. So I met with an agency last night who said to me that they want to reopen in the day program, but the staff are very upset. Well, I understand that. Other people were upset when we're coming back, but we're going to come back differently. We're going to come back safely, but still everybody's unsure, because every day is another normal. So understand that that does affect you, and that's tough, and you got to take care of yourself and just take a minute to do the breathing that Tanya's going to teach us, and really just take care of yourself through this. Being isolated. You know, a lot of our folks have been isolated for so much of their life. A lot of the folks that we support. And boy, am I feeling how they must feel. We're not going to anything anymore, right? We're not going to happy hours unless they're on Zoom. We're not seeing friends. We're not going to weddings, funerals, you name it. So that isolation is tough. Human beings are wired to be together. We're wired to want to be together. We're wired to connect. So not connecting and being isolated is destabilizing, difficult. Being immobile is another condition. We need to move. As we said earlier, our brain is filled up with chemicals every time we see some kind of danger, and then they're just eating away at our body because we're not moving, right? We're sitting in our homes. So we have to figure that out. How can we be moving? A loss of a sense of safety. Needless to say, very few people are feeling very safe right now. And then finally, a loss of sense of purpose. Well, all of you working in the disability world, you have a sense of purpose. But many of the folks we're supporting have lost their jobs or their roles in a day program, have lost those relationships, have lost all the things that gave their lives purpose. And many of us have lost the outside things we were doing that made us feel like, okay, I'm really making a difference here. These are all pre-trauma conditions. We're feeling trapped, right? Trying to get out, but we have to stay where we are too. So it's a tough one. Okay, so let's look at some of the antidotes. And some of these things are really small, and I bet a lot of you have even better ways of coping and better ideas, but I'm just going to throw some things out. because these are the situations we have to address. We have to look at these pre-trauma conditions and say, what can I do to counteract that, right? And realize what you're going through and address it for yourself in the way that's best for you. So not being able to predict anything, you can predict what you're going to do, right? To a certain extent. You can make a list of 4 or 5 things. Maybe 4 or 5 might be too many. 3 is okay. You know, I have these lists of 10 things. It's not healthy. Don't do that. Because every day I'm like, oh, I didn't do all that. But if you can just say, okay, today I'm going to make tuna fish, or I'm going to make this special thing for dinner, or I'm going to take a walk. And these are my lists. In addition to everything that I have to do, I'm going to make my life this way. Then you feel a sense of control. You can predict that, yeah, these are the things I'm going to do for me, right? I dyed my hair. Woohoo! First time in 20 years that I had to do it from, from the grocery store because I am just a spoiled princess. That was the big event for Sunday. So, you know, we went, but then I knew that I was going to do it. I could get excited about, here's a project I have, something to look forward to, as silly as it is. Being isolated, it is so important to connect with people. Try and find those friends that you enjoy and feel good with. So I have been reconnecting with people that are far away that I've known from years ago. You know, we've been reaching out to each other and Zooming or calling people that I didn't make time for before, because now we all have a little extra time, and being far away is the same as being, you know, a mile away. It doesn't matter. We're all, you know, far away right now. So if you can call that friend from childhood or call that cousin you haven't talked to, it really helps you. It's a great feeling to reconnect. And there's research that shows that relationships and connecting with people help you recover from trauma. Something I often share is that they looked at vets from Iraq who both had been through the same trauma, and one set had severe PTSD and the other set were able to resume their lives when they got back and maybe had a little twinge, but kept going and were okay. And 2 of the big factors, it wasn't education, position, money, none of that had anything to do with anything. It was the number of friends they had that they were doing FaceTime and Skyping with. If they had a lot of friends and family that they were talking to while they were in Iraq, they were much better off than the people who had severe PTSD who reported having very few friends and not making lots of connections and very few family. So that, then the circle of friends that you had in your unit also helped them. So relationships are what are the best inoculation against trauma. Reaching out, seeing friends, talking to friends, staying connected, not letting yourself get too isolated. And then also, you know, your close circle, your circle right around you, so important. Being immobile, let's move, take walks in safe ways. I know people having dance parties. My girlfriend told me about, there was a competition between Jill Scott and Erykah Badu, and they danced all in their living room and listened to it, and all kinds of fun things are going on YouTube, and all kinds of music is happening. We can dance, have dance parties, do yoga, move, get it out of your body. It's very important to release this stress from your body, and Tanya will talk more about that. So critical. Okay, loss of a sense of safety. So of course we want to physically engage in safe practices. So I have a dear friend right now who has a heart condition, and he was being very, very safe. And then his brother talked him into getting together one time. He was being safer than the rest of us, but one time he got together with his brother. His brother didn't realize it, but he was sick and coughed, and they are both in the hospital, and my friend is on a ventilator. So please take this seriously. I know you are, but we have these weak moments when we say, oh, come on, we can just all get together. I even said that to my daughter. Oh, come on. All 3 of us, 4 of us, we can get together and we'll just stay apart. And you have to be careful. You don't want to take risks right now. We have enough examples. But now I want to talk about emotional safety. emotional safety is just as important. As I said, those relationships heal. What we need to have emotional safety is to have someone you can talk to. Someone who's not going to judge you, or if they judge you, you're used to their judgments, like a spouse, but someone you can just dump on, so maybe it's not a spouse, but someone you just can say everything going wrong, everything you did wrong. Like, I'm going to have to tell my friend Nova tonight about how I screwed up the computer, who knows what I did, and disconnected the entire group. Oh, well. And someone we can talk to who's a safe person. That's very important, to be able to get it off your chest, to be able to talk about your feelings with someone you trust. Find that safe person and limit your news intake. Another sense of safety is that you can structure how much information you're going to get in. So I have a friend who's prone to depression, and she was telling me, we hadn't connected for a long time, and I reached out to her because I was worrying about her, because I know she goes through bouts of depression. And she said, yeah, she was listening to the news nonstop and went into a horrible depression. And she found that when she stopped the news, and she's already taking medication, she's already seeing a therapist, but limiting the news really helped her. Still having some, so she has it structured, but not being in that rabbit hole of, nonstop CNN or what. We want some of it, but please structure your news intake, because otherwise it can really affect you without you realizing it.
That's right.
Right? So try to make a safe place for yourself. Make that safe place in your home where you're not just constantly bombarded, and then find ways that loss of a sense of purpose, you are also important. So you're not losing your sense of purpose, but still finding small ways to make a difference helps so much. But everything you do is so important. Thank you all so much for being in this field and being there. The Chinese character for crisis, the Chinese character for crisis is dangerous opportunity, right? Danger and opportunity. Let's think about that. We know danger. We are in a crisis, a pandemic. As Crystal said, there's no blueprint. We have no idea what's going on. Here we are in a pandemic. But there's opportunity. And the opportunity is, this isn't like Christmas, right? There's a gift, but it's not all wrapped up in a pretty wrapping with a big bow, and gifts aren't sitting in front of the chimney. Oh no. But there are opportunities. There are opportunities to learn new things, to do things differently. There's an opportunity to reevaluate in your life what the things you might want to let go of. Big things and little things, like nails. I'm so silly. But I'm not getting my nails done. I'm like, okay, you know what? I didn't die. Good for me. But also looking at what really counts in my life. Where was I wasting my time? What things was I worrying about that were actually really stupid? I spent some time worrying about some dumb things. And what things was I doing, that maybe I was wasting my time doing? And, what things do I want to focus more on? I've been talking more to my kids, I've been reaching out more to my friends. I've been cherishing them and cherishing the people I care about and people that I've neglected. This is an opportunity to reevaluate. Say, okay, this human life is limited. Sometimes you forget how limited it is. What's important? How do we want to spend our lives? It's time. It's a gift to be able to reevaluate and redirect ourselves. So let's talk about resiliency, right? How to be that stronger person. Well, there's a lot of research that shows that a key to resiliency is being optimistic. I myself was not born an optimist. I was Chicken Little, right out of the womb. The sky is falling. That's been me. Oh no, oh my God. I was born like that. but I have been trying to develop the ability to be an optimist. I practice Buddhism and chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo so I can be an optimist. I work on myself to be an optimist. So I read about how to be an optimist. And a lot of research shows that a big piece of being an optimist is having appreciation and developing that muscle of appreciating. It's really easy to look at what's wrong, right? It's how I was raised, kvetching. Oh my God, look at this, look at that, and that, and this, and this, and that. But if we stop and think about what's right, we actually strengthen our resiliency. We can write down every night 3 things we're grateful for. Keep a gratitude journal. We can think about a time in our life that was much worse. Now, that doesn't seem like it would be uplifting, but if you think about it, what you've been through, look at yourself. I know everybody listening has been through something hellish because life on planet Earth is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you are. And you've been through stuff. Look at your strength. I bet there were moments when you thought you were not going to make it, when you thought, I cannot live through this. And yet you did. Here you are. So believe in yourself. You made it through that. You made it through the other thing. You can flourish. You can make it through anything. So understanding your own strength is very important. Seeing yourself for who you are, the strong you, the survivor. It's important to see that in yourself. And look at the ways that you have changed and grown. List that. Look at yourself 20 years ago and yourself now, how you have grown, who you are. You've got to do that to really acknowledge your greatness. Look at you and look at what you've been able to do. Mm-hmm. Right? You got to believe in yourself because there you are doing it. And that's amazing. So a big piece of appreciation is to appreciate yourself. Another thing, you can write a thank you card to someone you're grateful to. Martin Seligman talks about this and how it really affects your way you see your own life. If you can write a thank you card, and it can be to somebody who's alive or dead, but expressing your appreciation and then seeing yourself and how you benefited and expressing that appreciation is very helpful. That's a cool thing to do. And then finally, give yourself a break. You're not going to be accomplishing, you're not going to be writing the great American novel right now. You're not going to be accomplishing amazing things. Maybe you are, but it's going to take longer because our brains are working overtime trying to reform reality. Our subconscious mind is working overtime. How many of you are having strange dreams? I bet many of you are. Because our subconscious is very impacted by the change in reality and works it out in our dreams. And so we're having these crazy dreams. Our mind is working overtime, our conscious and subconscious trying to reform. So give yourself a break. You need a break. Don't be too demanding. Don't think you're going to just change everything in your life right away. I said, all this time, I'll clean out all my closets. They are still filled with junk. I'm sorry to say. I would like to say they're cleaned out, not happening. So give yourself a break. Okay. And you want to think about that gratitude as in terms of what you can do to actually build it up inside of yourself and how to help the folks you're working with to build it. So I'm going to tell you briefly about a study that was done. Robert Emmons, a wonderful PhD, positive psychologist, and he has a lab, an Emmons lab, and he did this one very simple piece of research. He had 3 groups of people, right? The first group, they were told every day, we want you to write down all the good things that happened today. And if you think about it, there's a lot of good things that we don't appreciate, like we woke up, not dead. So many things that we can appreciate that we take for granted, but write down all those good things. That was the group 1. Group 2 was just supposed to write down everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? It's good, it's bad. It's good you woke up, you felt good, but then there wasn't enough hot water in the shower because your kid had just taken a 20-minute shower before that, blah, 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 blah. Good and bad, good and bad, good and bad. And the last group just wrote down what was bad. Just the garbage, the bad stuff. Oh yeah, car has a weird sound, probably going to cost a lot of money, whatever it is, all the bad. And then they looked at the result. In a matter of weeks, group 1 that was just writing down the positives, that group, they all had reported having way higher levels of energy. They were way more enthusiastic about their life. They were feeling hopeful, that they reported that their life looked good to them and they had a lot of dreams and things were looking better than they looked before. They were more alert. They were more able to focus. Group 2, where they're just writing down everything, actually were less optimistic than they were before. They were totally immersed in reality, but they were like thinking that things were not that great and a little bit less energy. So just looking at the reality kind of took them down a notch. And then the third group, as you can guess, really struggled. They felt worse. They were more tired. They were less focused. And they were starting to really worry about things. They were starting to anticipate more problems than they'd even anticipated before. So just the act of recording what is good will uplift you. I want to suggest that for those of you working in homes, that you have the same time every day, you have an appreciation circle. Because a lot of our guys, we want to help them be more resilient, but they're not writing. And even those who are not speaking can point to things they appreciate. But if you have an appreciation circle every day at the same time and talk in the circle about 3 things everybody in the circle appreciates in their life, they share 3 things, everyone's going to start feeling better. This is so simple, but research proves it's true. Okay, more resiliency. Physical activity is so important. So another thing that I'm doing is that I'm zooming into some group homes and some residential homes with a couple of agencies, and I'm talking directly to folks with disabilities about what they're going through. And this one girl was saying, young woman, I'm playing basketball. I feel good playing basketball. And I didn't play before. And now I'm starting to play and I love it, because she happened, to have a hoop and everything. These other guys were taking walks where they hadn't been taking walks because they have more time. And there's a lot of the folks that were talking about activities were feeling really good. They need physical activities. We all do. We're human. And one thing we can do for ourselves, is take walks, do activities. Another thing we can do is go back to hobbies we used to love. I have a friend who started scrapbooking again, right? Another friend who's doing stained glass. She did years ago, and she's like, it is so therapeutic. My other friend is knitting, and she's knitting all the time. And she has a Zoom knitting circle. Isn't that sweet? And then you can start new ones, start new hobbies, try new things. Play games. To be engaged is very important. Playing games. Take out the games from that old closet in the back where you maybe once in a blue moon you had a family game night. Bring them out. Games are really helpful. In the homes, take pennies and hide them and have everybody try to find pennies. That's a really fun game, as silly as it is. But these things are important because research shows, Martin Seligman is a positive psychologist, and his research shows that if you're active in your happiness, you end up being a lot happier than if you're passive. If you're just like watching TV or just eating and passively taking in, you're not as happy as when you're engaged in a hobby, doing something. And that is actually more rewarding and will give you more energy. Listening to music. So one thing we've been doing is we've been pulling up bands we used to listen to and looking at rock concerts that are on YouTube. So that's fun. You can dance, have fun. My husband won't dance, and I embarrass him, but I do it anyway. But now there's no one to be embarrassed to. He's used to me. And we can start trying to learn something new. Now is not the time to learn Greek, whatever. My mother wishes I spoke, but I'm Greek American. But I'll tell you, it is, you can see a lot on YouTube. You can learn about some cool things you've always wanted to know. You can look at a documentary about something just you are interested in. It's a good time to open up. Right? There is opportunity here. There's a gift underneath all this garbage. And being engaged is very helpful. And it's important. Okay. And remember, the most important key to resiliency is relationships. As we've said earlier, it's a theme of what I'm saying today. Now, these are not people I know. They're good-looking people on the internet. My friends are just as beautiful. Some of them are with us today. But you'll see Tanya. She's gorgeous. But maybe we're not as young as these guys. But really, take it seriously in terms of reaching out to friends. And it will help them too, because there's a lot of lonely people right now. And it helps you. There's a saying where you light a lantern for another, and it will light up your own way. So that's important. And remember, this too shall pass. We are not going to be in this forever. There's a lot of very, very smart people working on solutions. I know a woman who's working for a drug company in San Francisco who's telling me they're coming up with amazing things that they're just not sharing because they're not allowed to. There are people working very hard on vaccines, and they have a lot of promising breakthroughs there. The hardest thing is going to be that they have to have trials, so it's going to take a while, but there's already very promising developments going on. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. So, and in the meantime, we can take advantage. So I like to talk about Nelson Mandela. In fact, I always talk about him. Here he is with Daisaku Ikeda, who's a great Buddhist scholar. He and Nelson Mandela, who of course has passed away, but Nelson Mandela was in prison for 27 years. That is being restricted, right? So I've had people tell me, and some of the folks I'm doing therapy with tell me, I feel like I'm in prison, And that's true. Many of us feel locked up and in prison. Nelson Mandela used his time in prison to strengthen himself. So if you read his book, he had a lot of trauma in childhood. And in prison, he learned to box. And he said through that physical activity of becoming a really good boxer, he got that trauma out of his body. He developed himself. And he studied, and he was a brilliant man. But he learned everything he could learn. He took advantage. And when he came out of prison, not only did he change South Africa, he changed the entire world. What an impact one man had. And that was straight out of prison, right? And Daisaku Ikeda says, life is best lived by being bold and daring. People tend to grow fearful when they face failure, face a daunting challenge, or fall ill. Yet that is precisely the time to become even bolder. Those who are victors at heart are the greatest of all champions. So we have a choice, right? Daisaku Ikeda also says hope is a decision. Like we can choose to use this time to develop ourselves, to strengthen our relationships, to try to move forward somehow, to take advantage somehow of this very odd opportunity. Or we can shrink, which I know I did, and is easy to do, like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I won't do this. But to regain our strength, to gather the energy and move forward, that's what will advance us. That's what makes us victorious. That's what's going to make us champions in our own life. And finally, I want to ask for this segment, and we're so lucky to have Tanya give us these wonderful tools. But does anyone have any questions or comments? Unmute yourself if you have one, or you can write it to Crystal and Crystal can share. Otherwise, we can move forward.
Yes, and those of you who've dialed in, feel free to text me at 202-375-4220. 202-375-4220. We received a few comments of actually requests for a copy of your presentation today. So we'll definitely make that available to you.
Okay. And there's a question. Someone's raising their hand. Please go ahead.
Hold on just a second. Let's see if I can unmute you without a lot of background noise. Or if you can just type your question in the text box, that would be great. Okay.
Well, I don't see anyone. Someone was asking and raising their hand. So if you have questions afterwards too, we can answer them through email. You can email Crystal and we can answer them. So I'd like to do whatever you need, but I'm excited to hand this over to Tanya because everything she taught us in sessions earlier, I've been using, and it's so wonderful and so precious, and I've gotten so much from her part of the session. So you're in for a treat.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you very much. And I think my hand is raised permanently in this session and I can't put it down. So that may be me gumming up the works there. So thanks so much. And everything Karen shared is just, it's so true. And I find myself thinking about it a lot. She and I really enjoy, I think, presenting with one another. I know I just adore Karen. She's a treasure. And it's helped me think a lot about what happens to us when we're under stress. And so my role with you today, although typically when you see me in the district, I am training around person-centered practices, but I'm also a Qigong and Tai Chi practitioner, and I'm certified to teach both of those. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about breathing and some mindfulness techniques with your breathing, just to kind of shut down some of the ill effects of the responses that you might find yourself in right now. Karen said, this is not the time to learn Greek. It's also not the time to learn a complicated mindfulness program or take up, really complicated ways of trying to calm yourself down, because that's actually probably going to stress you out. But I'm going to teach you some simple breathing techniques that I think will be helpful and that don't actually take a lot of time to learn. And I heard from Crystal earlier that folks who've been through the class already or through our sessions already are using them and are, reporting that they're finding them helpful. And I hope that will be the case for you as well. But when we're under stress, as Karen told us, our bodies go into survival mode, and it produces stress hormones, which gear us up to respond to that perceived threat. Those are protective hormones. They are not bad things. They are just misplaced when we don't have any way to express them or to release them. And some of our breathing techniques can actually help us do that. So Karen talked to you about the fight, flight, or freeze response. And if you think about just kind of what's been going on in your own life, or think about the people that you are supporting or people in your family right now and how everybody is behaving maybe a little differently than they have in the past. I find myself needing to take a walk or actually craving going to get on my tread climber. Can I tell you how much I hate treadmills by nature? And I hate my treadmill. I hate your treadmill. I hate all treadmills. But I find myself actually wanting that activity because it burns off something. And that's actually the flight response. It's the need to move. It's the need to get away. It's the need to be in action or in motion. And I would even argue that those of you who find yourself just scrolling on your phone, scrolling, or flipping through your TV, that actually might be related to the flight response as well. There's just all that hormone that is in you that needs to be burned off. In addition to that, you might find yourself starting to do something during the day and forgetting what you were going to do, walking into a room and forgetting why you came there, sitting down to type an email and forgetting what you wanted to say, reading something and finding yourself reading the same paragraph over and over. That's probably freeze. And so what's happening in that is that the blood is rushing from your extremities to your vital organs to protect your body from whatever the stressor is, but you're kind of in suspended animation. So Karen says it's like walking through molasses. So freeze is pretty common. And that's one I find myself in pretty frequently. I think it is very much my nature during non-COVID times to be a little bit of a fighty person. I'm not snarky by nature in any way, but I will give you an example. One time my husband, before we were married, had a key to my apartment. He came in while I was vacuuming and I couldn't hear him come in. So I looked up and there's a large man standing in my doorway and I picked up the vacuum cleaner to swing it at him. And that is because I think I'm a small person and I can't run very fast. My instinct tells me to just fight if something threatens me. So that's not happening to me much anymore. But you may find in close quarters that you're feeling more fighty. Maybe your spouse is blinking a little too loudly or whatever it is. So things are a little turned around for us right now. And when we enter that state, what happens is our heart rate goes up. Respiration becomes rapid, but it also becomes very shallow. So we're panting, we're taking panting breath, and our blood pressure rises. And our brain itself moves into a really primitive survival mode, and it's starting to suppress for us all of our normal thought functions. So our ability to evaluate something or plan or decide on something, or even the way we encode memory in a normal way, kind of shuts down in this place. So the result of that is that we react rather than to be able to evaluate and plan a response to the stressor. And we may not even be conscious that we're doing that. So under certain circumstances, like being in this pandemic, being under constant stress from all the bad news that we're hearing or all the bad things that we're witnessing or are a part of, our body might be in a constant place of this fight, flight, or freeze, which is exhausting and really can contribute to the development of some physical stress-related types of disorders, things like cardiac problems, things like chronic high blood pressure, or an increased risk of stroke. And it is not good for us to camp out in this state. We want to make sure that we have some techniques to move past that frozen place of flight, fight, or freeze. And since we're going to do some deep breathing together today, and that's how I'll start you off, and then I'm going to teach you some breathing techniques that you can use for different circumstances. We're going to do some really light, very, very gentle movement. And I do want to stress with you gentle. I don't want you doing anything very strenuous. It is helpful if you're seated for what we're about to do. But you may feel your body starting to push up some unpleasant feelings. And that's very normal. I think of it like wringing out a washcloth. So our bodies are holding a lot of emotions. And as we move a little bit and as we push our body out with our lungs, so we're breathing and we're stretching, it's like wringing the emotions out a little bit. But that's good because we want to get out those things that don't serve us well. And it's not uncommon that you might shed a tear. You might feel yourself tearing up. You might cry just a little bit. It's not uncommon that you might laugh or sigh. I don't know what will happen as we start to kind of manipulate those emotions, but just be okay with your body today as it is, however that is, however you are today, that is absolutely okay. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is just right now, notice your posture. That is the first thing I want you to notice. I'm going to make the assumption that you're all sitting as I am, probably in front of a computer, or you may be on the couch with your phone. But if you're standing, this also holds true. Our mood and our emotion can impact our posture. So if I said to you, someone looks sad, you probably immediately think of someone whose head is downcast and their shoulders may be slumped. You kind of know what sad looks like. We can physically see that in someone. But the good news is it goes both ways. Our postures can actually impact our mood and our emotions as well. So just notice right now, just be aware of, I don't want you to judge anything. I don't want you to have any expectations of your body, but just be aware of how you're sitting. Are your shoulders forward? Are you rounded toward your chest with your shoulders kind of rounded toward your chest? Is your head slightly down? That's a pretty common posture for us right now. We're all on the computer all day. We're on our phones a lot. And so we're kind of collapsed in on ourselves. So that posture that most of us are in as we attend to web meetings or as we scroll through our phones or even sometimes as we watch television, it's also the posture of sadness and anxiety. And I say it constricts our happiness, it constricts our peace. So what we want to do is simply change our posture in a way that opens up our body, opens up our heart space so that we can feel better, that we can bring those more positive feelings to us. So that in and of itself, just changing our posture can bring about a change in our mood. I even say there's like a little button right under your breastbone that when you're pushed forward like this, you've activated that button, and it's the sad button. And what we want to do is open up so that we have released that energy. So I want you to really roll your shoulders up. And it's helpful if you think about maybe having a little hook on top of your head and 2 little hooks on your shoulder. And if you look up to the ceiling, just imagine that you are kind of dangling down from the ceiling like a marionette. So allow yourself to just kind of fall into that natural posture as if you were hanging down from the ceiling by your head and shoulders. And you're going to roll your shoulders up and bring your shoulder blades right down onto your back where they're sitting comfortably. Nothing unnatural, just very gently. Your chin will be basically parallel to the floor. I'd like your gaze to be soft and forward. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, you certainly can close your eyes. And you've now just cleared a major constriction. You've opened up your chest, you've opened up that heart space, and you may have felt yourself take a deeper breath when you did that, sort of a little sigh. If you did, you probably have some unexhaled stale air in there. And so we're about to clean all of that out. I want you to just sit that way for a moment, sit in that posture for a moment, very calm, very soft and gentle, very open-hearted, and just let your breath find its own pace. Whatever pace you're breathing at is okay. Let yourself marvel at how your very own body with nourishing breath.
Uh-oh. Oh, we just lost you.
Am I back?
Yes, there you are.
Okay. So if everyone else will mute, and I'll just lead you through a sitting relaxation. If that stressed you out, all I could do is say, I'm sorry. Technology has a special way of stressing us out. But I want you to sit as you are right now, and I'm just going to lead you through a very gentle exercise to help you find the pace of your breath and to help you relax just a little bit before I share some other breathing techniques with you. So just sit as you are with your spine straight and your back supported. And let your legs extend outward from your chair with your feet flat on the floor if possible. And I want you to do an emotional check-in. So what's going on in your emotions right now? What are your thoughts? What are you feeling in your body and where are you feeling it? Just notice what's happening. No judgment, no expectation, just be aware. Now focus on the sensations of your hips and your thighs, sitting on the chair. Notice how solid the chair is and how the surface supports your weight. Feel the soles of your feet, noticing the whole surface where they're in contact with the floor. And give yourself permission to give into the gravity and let the chair and the floor support your weight. And just breathe. Let your breathing be at its own pace. See if you can slow your breath just a little bit. Take a few slow, deep breaths. And when you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Focus on the feeling of the breath, the movement of your chest, your rib cage, your shoulders, the expansion of your lungs. And now I want you to bring your attention to the soles of your feet. Imagine that they are, I think of them as Dr. Scholl's inserts for my shoes. So they have those little holes all through them, so you could breathe through them. And I want you to imagine that you can pull air in through the soles of your feet. As you take a breath, imagine that you're bringing warm healing energy to every cell of your body. And as you breathe out, imagine that cleansing your body of tension, pain, old leftover emotions. You're pushing all of that out as you exhale. So breathe in and fill up your feet with this positive, warm, relaxing energy. Notice the pleasant sensations moving into your toes, the balls of your feet, your arches, your heels, your insteps, and all through your feet. And give yourself the time you need to allow that to happen. Just focus on your feet until they feel completely relaxed and comfortable. Breathe in and breathe out. Exhale all the pain, all the tension, all the unpleasant emotions that you don't need. Now, when you practice this for yourself, after we finish this session, I want you to take the time to focus on every area of your body. And I'm going to walk you up your body now progressively, starting at your feet and going up. But I want you to do this very, very slowly when you do this on your own to practice it. You can, if you have 10 minutes to practice, that's great. If you have an hour to practice, that's even greater. But it's really a very simple exercise, and it just causes you to focus progressively from your feet all the way up to your head on each part of your body and bringing that healing air in and pushing out the bad. I also want you to really pay attention to where in your body you may be holding pain, storing up any pain. So I tend to carry a lot in my lower spine, and I carry a lot of tension in my shoulders. And those are kind of old energies that I need to clear out. And so what I need to do is imagine breathing into that space. So right now, I'd like you to take another breath in through your feet. Take that breath in and imagine filling up your ankles and your lower legs. If you can't immediately sense a part of your body, you might try rubbing it with your hands or kneading it a little bit. Continue to move up through the calves and the shins. And let your breath be your own. Just take the time you need to work your way through every given part of your body. And allow yourself to sense the shift in the sensations. As you inhale and exhale, move gradually into your knees. Feel the warm move into them. Feel the healing move into them. And then think about the backs of your thighs, the tops of your thighs. Inhale and exhale. Bring that air all the way up from your feet into those areas. Bring in the healing energy, the warmth. Push out what you don't need. I want you to bring the air into your pelvis, your buttocks, your belly, the small of your back, your midriff, your middle back, your chest, your upper back. Fill your body up with the air. Push the bad air out. As you continue to breathe, let the energy move into your shoulders, your upper arms, into your elbows, your lower arms, your wrists, your palms, your fingers. You may start to feel your fingers tingle. You might feel a little energized as you do this. Make sure your arms stay very relaxed and return your attention to your shoulders. Again, pull that warming air, that healing air up through the feet, all the way through your body. Let it come to your shoulders. Let this breath take the warm, relaxing energy up the back of your neck. Take all the time you need to let it relax in the neck muscles, then the front of the neck. Bring it to your throat, your tongue, jaws, cheeks, all those muscles around the mouth, the nose, the eyes, the temples, around the inside of the ears, the scalp, the base of the skull. And take all the time you need. Just let your air come as it will. Feel the relaxing sensations warm each part of your body as you go. Please just continue to breathe and imagine your whole body is filled up with this glowing golden light. Notice the changes you experience in your body as this happens. Appreciate the sense of peacefulness and calm and the pleasant sensations that you feel. And tell yourself that you can carry this feeling with you all through your day, feeling calm and peaceful, but alert and energetic. As you continue to practice, if you can't feel the warmth in parts of your body when you first try this, or if there are parts of your body that you can't feel at all, just stay with it. You're working on establishing a connection you need to sense what's occurring in your body, which is crucial for healthy physical and emotional functioning. Trying to make a connection, you're communicating with yourself on a cellular level. So let's just talk a minute. I want you to sit there and breathe. Breathe at your own pace while I share a few things with you, and then we're going to do a little bit more practice. But let's spend a moment talking about why this is a good practice for you. Deep breathing not only helps cure anxiety and stress, but it also triggers your body to relax. And it is a practice. We fall in practice, we fall out of practice, but we are always needing to breathe. We need to breathe to live. So it's fundamental to our survival. And when we are stressed or anxious, our breathing changes, and it does that in an attempt to allow our body to engage in really intense physical activity for survival. But unfortunately, breathing becomes more rapid and it gets very, very shallow. So we start to breathe these quick, shallow breaths. If you ever feel like you can't catch your breath, or if you're working with someone who, when they are anxious or upset or sad, begins to pant a little bit and feels like they can't catch their breath, it isn't that you aren't able to catch your breath. You can inhale. What's happening is you're not exhaling. So short gasps of air inward are followed by very short exhalations, very small exhalations. And the feeling of not catching one's breath leads us to inhale even more, but still no complete exhale. And so your lungs are really full of old, stale air. And the new good air, the healing air, the energetic air can't enter. And we sense that we have this need for oxygen, and in panic, we attempt to inhale even more. So the solution is clear. We have to learn to exhale. We have to learn to control our exhale and really expel all of that old air. Proper breathing is one of the best ways to manage stress because it stops the negative cycle and it calms your body. It tells your body on a cellular level to settle. And that is what all of this is about. Deep breathing not only helps to cure anxiety and stress, it triggers that relaxation. And we're breathing too fast. When we're breathing too fast, it causes us to be lightheaded. It may cause some numbness. I often will feel tingling in the center of my back. And that's usually a cue to me that I need to maybe stop and do a breathing exercise. You may feel tingling in your extremities. So I'm going to give you a couple of ways to slow down and breathe while exhaling fully. There is a cheat sheet we've developed for you. And both Crystal and Emily Ornstein, Crystal Thomas and Emily Ornstein have copies of that, I think, that will be sent to you if you want a copy of it. You don't need it to participate right now, but if you need it to help you remember later as you practice your breath, there is a cheat sheet for this, and it's called Just Breathe. And the first thing I want you to be able to do is shut down the hyperventilation, or that fast panting breath that many of us as adults take. We all pretty much do that at some point. We're breathing very shallowly and very rapidly. I'm going to take out one of these earplugs for a moment. And I call this one square breathing, or it is called square breathing, because it's allowing us to think about traveling around the perimeter of a square. And most of us can imagine a square in our head. But if you have trouble doing that, and sometimes when we're anxious, we do have trouble remembering things, you could put your finger on a square. I've actually put a square on the cheat sheet for you so that you can put your finger on it and travel around, or you might use your phone or whatever square you can get your hands on. But the first thing you'll do is just visualize a square in your head. So this is to help you if If you are hyperventilating, if someone you know is hyperventilating or tends to hyperventilate, you can teach them square breathing. And it is physically impossible, it is scientifically impossible to hyperventilate at the same time you are square breathing. So the first thing you want to do is start at the first corner of the square. So just pick a corner and let it be square one or corner one. And you're going to inhale for 4 seconds. And I'd like you to do that with me now, 4 seconds. We're going to travel across the top of the square while we exhale for 4 seconds. And we arrive at corner 2. Inhale for 4 seconds. Travel down the square as you exhale for 4 seconds. And you arrive at corner 3. Inhale for 4 seconds. Travel across the bottom of the square as you exhale for 4 seconds. And you arrive at corner 4. Inhale for 4 seconds. Travel up the square as you exhale for 4 seconds. And you're back at corner 1. So I'll let you do that on your own with your own breathing pace, inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 4. And I'll meet you back here when you're done. Visualize the square in your head and start at corner 1. Okay, for most of you, that may have been enough time to get all the way around that square. So you can do this as many times as you want to. You just continue to go around and around the square. As I said, once you get the little cheat sheet, if you print a copy of that for yourself or whoever you're working with who may need to do some square breathing, you can just put your finger on the square and do the breathing as you trace it. And it has a marvelous ability to calm us down. It also forces us to take the same amount of time as we inhale as we do to exhale, so it evens our breathing out, which has a great ability to shut down that hyperventilation or those shallow panting breaths. You can also, if you want to, increase the counts between the corners. So instead of 4 seconds, you can inhale for 6 seconds and exhale for 6 seconds. And as you get better at breathing, as you practice more, you're going to be able to hold your breath longer. There is some benefit as well to holding your breath at the top of an inhale. So you take a sip of breath, hold, and then exhale so that it really has the opportunity to nourish your body. And you can repeat that as much as you want. These techniques don't take very much time. They're not really hard to remember. You are going to get a cheat sheet to make it a little bit easier. But we use different techniques to accomplish different goals. So that one helps us with that shallow breathing that we might find ourselves in when we are anxious or stressed. There's another one called 4-7-8 breathing that I'm going to teach you now that's very helpful if you're trying to go to sleep. Many people, when they're under stress or they're anxious or their schedule is disruptive, have trouble with their sleep patterns. So 4-7-8 is a great way to get yourself to be able to go to sleep. I almost can't do it more than 2 or 3 rounds because my body is kind of trained to go to sleep by using that. It's very helpful because I travel a lot and hotels can be noisy. So this is a great way just to kind of help myself nod off to sleep. But it's a deep breathing exercises that uses your stomach as the focus point. So the first thing I want you to do is put one hand on your chest and one hand on your tummy. And when you inhale, just take an inhale. What happens to your stomach? It should puff out. If you've ever watched a baby or a toddler sleeping, when they breathe in deeply and they're completely unaware of how their bodies look, their little tummies puff out like a balloon when they breathe in. And that's what should happen to you as well. So you fill your air with lungs and it actually makes your stomach puff out. And as you exhale, everything kind of collapses in and all of that air should come out. That's a full inhalation and exhalation. So with 4-7-8, you're going to take a deep breath in from your stomach. You're going to let that stomach puff out. Notice how your stomach feels, and you're going to count to 4 as you breathe in. So inhale now. Now hold your breath at the top of that inhale for 7 seconds. And exhale for 8. Let's do it again. Inhale 4. Hold for 7. Exhale 8. If you're having trouble exhaling for 8 seconds, sometimes that takes a little bit of time. It's a nice signal to you that you are holding some stale air in and that you need to really be thinking about your exhales, making sure that they are full exhales. And you will get better as you practice. It is helpful also to practice in a seated position for a while, because sometimes when we're not accustomed to breathing deeply, it can make us feel a little bit lightheaded. So you want to make sure that you are doing this safely. And just practice it for as much as you can during the day, as often as you have tolerance, but it doesn't take more than about 5 minutes each time you do this. I always use 4-7-8 to go to sleep. I think it's a great way to settle down, and it really helps us focus on getting that expelling that old stale air. There are also techniques that we can use when we want to perk ourselves up. So alternate nostril breathing is one way that we can do that. So you're going to end up using your fingers to cover one nostril and then the other. And I just press this against the side of my nose to do that. Now, if you have a runny nose today, you might want to turn your camera off because we might have an ugly incident if you're not careful. But we're going to use this to get some air in and even out our breathing. So deep nostril, alternate nostril breathing helps you feel relaxed. At the same time, it energizes you and makes you feel awake. Do not do this one before bed because it's going to perk you up a little bit. You don't want to defeat the purpose of trying to go to sleep. But you're going to cover your right nostril and breathe in through your left nostril. And I'm going to ask you to breathe in for 4 seconds. Cover your left nostril and exhale for 4 seconds. Now inhale through the right nostril. Cover the right nostril and exhale through the left nostril for 4 seconds. Inhale through the left nostril. Cover the left nostril and exhale through the right nostril for 4 seconds. And you may feel yourself really getting energized there. So once you've inhaled those deep breaths, you just alternate back and forth. And that's really going to help you even out, bring balance to your breathing while it gives you a feeling of alertness. Again, don't try that one before bed. And I'm doing 4-second breaths generally with you, 4-second inhales. I'm just under the impression that maybe these aren't techniques you've tried before. But as you get more practice at it, go ahead and bring a deeper breath in. If you can inhale for 6 seconds and exhale for 10, the more you practice this, the better you'll get at it. And those longer inhales and exhales really have a calming effect on your physical body. But in addition to that, they're very good for your emotional state and your mind. The last sequence I'm going to teach you is called Ha, Hu, He, and it's for joy, balance, calmness, and positive feelings. This comes from the tradition of Qigong. And there are different meridians in the body, and the idea is different types of breaths will help stimulate and cleanse those parts of our body. And so the exhale is the important part here because the sound we make is associated with different meridians in our body. So again, this is to make us feel joyful, positive, calm, and centered. And this time we're going to inhale for 6 seconds. And as we exhale, we are going to make a very audible sound. And it's going to sound funny. You might laugh at yourself a little bit as you make it. Certainly if anyone's watching you or around you, they're going to laugh. But it's okay. We're going to inhale for 6 seconds. And on our first exhale, we're going to make the sound ha. Inhale for 6 seconds. Exhale, hoo. And try to keep the inhale and the exhale an even number of beats. Inhale for 6 seconds. Exhale, he. Now let's do it again. Inhale. Ha. Inhale. Hoo. Inhale. He. Okay, so you get the idea. And again, you'll get the cheat sheet for this. But you want to keep these even. So if it's 6 seconds in, it's 6 seconds out as you make that audible sound. Another way you can work on exhaling better is through pursed lips. So as you exhale, kind of tense your face and make an audible exhale. And that will really help you push that air out, and it makes you a little more intentional about doing that in an energetic fashion. Some of you may be feeling a little lightheaded now. That's happened in both of the sessions that we've done so far with this. And it is usually because we don't breathe properly as adults. We haven't been really trained to stop and take those good deep breaths. I'll teach you one more exercise that I find is really helpful for energizing us. It's called the Big Bird. It's super easy. I want you to just kind of do this gently. If you have any rotator cuff issues or anything like that, I don't want to hurt anybody's shoulders, but just gently move your arms. We're going to breathe in as we bring our arms up. So inhale. And breathe out as you push your arms down. Exhale. Breathe in as you bring your arms up. Exhale, push your arms down. This one has the ability to shunt blood between our body and our brain. So if you're feeling that afternoon fogginess that some of us feel, or you're having trouble focusing or concentrating, just a few minutes of doing the Big Bird can actually help energize you and get some oxygenated blood going to your brain. That is the whole point of that. So I would encourage you, again, there are lots of Qigong exercises that you can find online. Just you type, and I'm gonna actually, Crystal can help you with that too when she sends the email to you, I hope, but I'm gonna type it in the chat box, Qigong, how it's spelled, just in case everybody wants to look something up. Because no matter what issue it is you think you are having, there is a breathing technique to address it. So there's lots on YouTube, there's lots on Pinterest if you're interested. And you might also check mindful breathing. That is another term that you would hear. As I said, this is not the time to put complicated mindfulness and Qigong practice into place, because you do have enough on your plate, and it can be stressful to try to learn something complicated while you're just really trying to survive each day. But now that you have a few simple breathing techniques, some exercises, and an understanding that different techniques will help you accomplish different things, you can just breathe daily, and that's a really good place to start. So I will stop there and ask if you have questions for either me or for Karen. It's okay to unmute yourself if you have any questions just in terms of follow-up with this.
Hi, I just wanted to sort of read some of the comments in the chat box. So one person mentioned that they find themselves watching the news a lot, and thank you for sharing this. I believe Karen mentioned earlier about really being mindful of how much you watch the news, or just negative things that you participate in. Also, one person asked the question, do you think that the picture and memorial helps to get closure? So I believe that was during Karen's presentation as well.
Yeah. The process of doing that is very therapeutic, helps you to honor that person. But I don't want to say closure because, the people we've lost stay in our hearts, and it's never just now the chapter is closed, right? It's okay, now I've put them in a different place in my life. Now they've passed, but I've honored them. They're in my heart. And feelings for them will come up from time to time. So it helps process, and it helps you to get to a different place with it. And it puts it in a different framework, but you can still expect feelings to come up from time to time. I'm going to be realistic.
Are there any other questions, comments for Dr. Harvey and Ms. Richmond? Someone mentioned that they recently found a lot of comfort connecting with their high school mates over the past 30 years. They started an exercise group, challenging each other, and it's been therapeutic.
That's so great. I keep hearing stories like this. It's so wonderful. My cousin I hadn't talked to for like 10 years contacted me. It's fantastic.
And someone also commented, I just had someone to pass that we were close, and I just don't know what to do with how I feel.
I'm so sorry. So I suggest that also, if possible, you can get therapy. I believe strongly in grief therapy. I do that a lot with folks. And I think, having an hour every week or twice a week to just really get yourself healed and talk about that person and do that grief work with a therapist can be very helpful. I really recommend that. There's also some grief groups. I can't recommend one. I don't know of any online, but I'm sure that there are some here and there that helps as well. But even if it's just, 5 or 6 sessions, it'll make a difference. I'm hoping there's EAP programs in most places. I think there are.
It's so odd right now. Just the grieving process is different. I mean, it's different with every person you lose, I think, or it has been in my life. But the world is so weird right now, and so just all the natural and normal and usual ways we have of engaging in any kind of grief are not necessarily available to us. So we're having to learn to grieve that person in different ways, which is a big learning, I think, for all of us.
I hear some background noise, so and whoever's not speaking at the moment, if you can mute yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
If it sounds like a bird, it's my house. There's just birds everywhere outside.
That's so funny.
They are so loud, and the windows and doors are closed. I'm going to mute myself.
That is so funny.
Are they?
Yeah, this is a journey. It's a tough journey. But we're on it together.
Yeah.
Not alone.
Any other questions? This is a great opportunity. We have nationally recognized trauma-informed therapists on the line. So anyone who would like to make a comment, question, this is the best time to do it.
Oh, yes.
One comment was, thank you, Tanya, because I feel the tension in my shoulders.
Can I share a technique real quickly that I forgot to share?
Sure.
So if there's a memory that's really bothering you and you're in that loop that I talked about, you can do what's called the butterfly. Please do the breathing, because I didn't realize how much bad air I was carrying around, Tanya. Who knew? Got it all out. I need to do this every day. But when you're feeling, that stress or that sadness in particular, you can do what's called the butterfly. It's an EMDR technique. So you cross your arms and you tap yourself rhythmically on both sides and breathe. And that's very helpful. Do it maybe 10, but maybe 5 minutes and then stop, and then another 5 minutes for letting go. To just kind of release and let go if there's a memory bothering you or a feeling that's bothering you that you want to let go of. You can do the butterfly as well, along with the breathing. I forgot to share that.
Thank you, thank you. And more comments about really enjoying the breathing exercises. And so again, I will forward the presentation along with a copy of the Just Breathe worksheet to everyone. The birds are right on cue.
I am so sorry. I don't know what to do about them. I'm happy for them, but they really are disturbing me. So, I was going to say in relation to breathing, well, if you will think about those places in your body where you're holding that pain as you breathe in, particularly that first exercise where you're breathing in through your feet, imagine that you're directing that breath right to where that pain is. That to me has remarkable. I have a lot of chronic pain. And it is worse when I am stressed and when I'm anxious, or particularly when I'm sad, I hold a lot of pain. So breathing into those places where I have pain really makes a huge difference in that, sometimes even to the impact that I don't need to take an anti-inflammatory. So breathing has a remarkable power if you will practice it, and don't do a huge amount of it. Just try every day to find a time that you can breathe, and if you have 5 minutes, that's plenty. And as you get better at it, you will crave it and you will want to do it more.
And also a reminder, everyone, that this webinar is being recorded, so there will be it will be made available in the next few days. I can send that link to everyone as well. Are there any more questions or comments for our facilitators?
Baraka? There's somebody raising their hand.
Yes, I do have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, and this question is for Miss Karen. Recently, in one of our ICF home, we lost 2 people.
Oh.
And I'm trying to figure out how we can help our DSP staff and the roommates to cope with the situation.
Oh. That is so tough. I am so sorry. Oh my gosh. Wow. 2. That's so devastating. So what I suggest is to try to get a counselor who can come in and do a grief group.
Okay.
And can Zoom or can, Zoom in and do grief counseling with the whole group, in the group, where you share memories and feelings and thoughts and do that on a regular basis for a while. We've got to do grief counseling in these situations. Thank you for asking that. That is heartbreaking. So if we can get a counselor to Zoom in, or somebody that can come in a safe way, I think that would be really critical.
And how about those the people, the level of intellectual is not there, and they're
But
severe intellectual level, how they can be able to comprehending the material?
Yeah, so a counselor who's familiar with working with all different types of people is able to engage them. Even if they're not using words, they can engage. So I do know some people on this side of the world in Maryland, on the Baltimore end, but I'm sure that if you can find someone's familiar with working with our folks, they can do that in a way that everybody participates. And, it's such a great question. And thank you for thinking of them and thinking about them, because we've got to figure this out. There's going to be a lot of grieving, and our folks are losing each other, which is just heartbreaking. And they need therapeutic support. So if we can try to get some professionals involved in doing this, I think that's really important. And there are folks who know how to do it. I
Thank
can
you.
advise them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can definitely talk more offline, Baraka, about resources, community resources available to folks that we support. There was another comment about laughter being a great healer, which we did some of that today. Anything else?
Yeah, watch some, pick your favorite comedian. And that's what I've been doing whenever I got really discouraged. I just shut off the news and just went on to the YouTube loop, watching my favorite comedians over and over again. Thank goodness for them.
Yeah, and talking about YouTube, I learn a lot from YouTube how to cook now. I'm a good cook.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's great. I love it. I need to be doing that.
Right.
My family would appreciate it. That's great.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Again, I will forward all of the PowerPoints. Most of you have registered. I will forward the comments. I'll forward the presentation and materials along with the link to the email address that you used to register or the ones that you've forwarded to me today. So, okay.
Yeah. Hang in there, everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us. And my name is Crystal Thomas. And again, I'm the program manager for the State Office of Policy Planning and Innovation. So I will type my email address in the comments for anyone who needs any follow-up regarding this training, presentation, resources. So
Thanks so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Take care, and thank you all for everything that you do.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Don't forget, have hope.